Mama was a farmer. Papa was a goner.
Wow, what a powerful way to end the song. If I was going by year, I'd say the song was produced about in the 1960s, where soul music was at its peak, but it's actually a track from 2015, made by the rapper Anderson .Paak. So, Paak, why did you open the album with a song with such a clear and defined ending?
I just wanted to give a song that set the tone for the rest of the album. I knew very early on that that would be the first song for the album, and I wanted something that would talk about my family line, a little bit of what I went through, but kind of loosely.
This song gives us a glimpse into Paak as a person, his past, present, and future, all in a song that narrowly reaches the 200-word mark. This results in a song that's being interpreted as less of a call for pity, but more of a calm statement of fact, which is also followed in his vocal quality, which we'll discuss later. The verse focuses on his past, about how he grew up in a lonely castle as his mother was a gambling addict and his father was in prison. This is given as much stage as the fact his sister was a Whitney Houston fan, which enforces the idea of mundane suffering. The second part of the verse is about a friend that he shared many experiences with, having been one of the only black people around his age living in his suburb. This was written by him in a genius annotation, but the song is simply about the importance of having people around you, distilling an experience into its core emotion. The chorus of the song is more abstract than the verse, but there's reason to believe that this is about Paak's present. The bird itself is a reference to the birds from Bob Marley's iconic Three Little Birds, which in that song were the bringers of hope in better times, which is now for Paak. Now Look What's Taking Over Me is Paak experiencing positive emotions for the first time, which he mentioned is the effect of his partner on him, which adds another layer of meaning as bird is also a slang for female. The last two lines is Paak introducing where his art comes from, his heritage and the people around him. The outro section is about his future, starting with My Little Youth is Crying, which is about how he's aware that he's not taking enough care of his child right now, but uses symbolism to show how much work he's putting in so he can return to his family soon. The track ends looking at the past, which is where it started, with the most impactful lines of the track. The song has a very odd structure of intro, double chorus, verse, double chorus, instrumental, and finally the outro section. The sections are all very similar to each other sonically, so there isn't much tension built in the structure of the song. There are no rises or fading in the song, besides the guitar and drums fading in at the beginning. Instead, Paak uses silence, so the listener can catch a breath between different sections. The chorus is repeated with no change. In most songs, this would sound very trite and tired, but here it allows the listener to get accustomed to the irregular structure and chords, as mentioned later by Jonathan. A song requires an optimum ratio of intrigue and predictability to engage the listener. By repeating the chorus, Paak can experiment with other acoustic elements, such as replacing the guitar with a piano as the main instrument of the track.
The music theory used by Anderson is rich and complex, looking backwards to 20th century jazz and fusing it with elements of modern hip-hop. It can be understood using the common jazz structure of a 2-5-1. This starts on the 2, and then builds tension on a dominant 5th, and then resolves nicely to the 1. So, in the bird chorus, we start off with a B flat minor. This is the 2 of a 2-5-1, which then progresses to an E flat dominant 7. This implies an A flat major resolution. However, here Anderson breaks the rules a little bit and goes, he interrupts the 2-5-1 with another 5, in this case D flat dominant 7. He then holds this chord for an extra measure, building tension and finally resolving onto a G flat and rewarding the listener for their patience. He then holds the G flat for another measure, and then to get us back to the original B flat minor, he uses a clever technique called a tritone substitution. A B major, which has the same role as a 5th in the scale and resolves really jazzily back to the B flat minor. So what does this all mean? The song starts on a 2-5-1 that is interrupted and never resolves, and further 2-5-1s are used to traverse 3 different keys. This gives a wandering, unpredictable feel to the chord progression. The listeners are being taken on a journey. The progression also sounds fresh and exciting. It not only shuns the trite diatonic progressions of pop, but it also disobeys many of the established rules of jazz. This unpredictability is often counterbalanced by Paak holding the chord for an extra measure. This ensures the listener does not get lost and strikes the optimal balance between novelty and familiarity, which has the best effect on the listener, as mentioned in last week's lecture. Finally, the end leads to the beginning, which gives the chord progression a circular feel, as it never fully resolves. This makes the song feel organic and conversational, rather than something built up from discrete chunks. In general, the chords sound pensive, yet positive. Anderson is reflecting on the good and bad of his early life, in nostalgia, and almost objectively, rather than in mourning or in self-pity. Regarding the rhyming structure of the chorus, the first 3 lines all rhyme with each other and have a similar rhythm. They contrast with the last 5 lines, which sound like more of an answer to the initial question. This naturally groups the chorus into a 3 and a 5. This is very unconventional and gives the illusion that the chorus lasts longer than a regular 16-bar measure, which adds to the organic and conversational feel of the song. In hip-hop, the stanzas and rhymes are less structured and more organic than in jazz. Often in hip-hop lyrics and rhythms progress one after the other, rather than following a predefined structure. This shows that fundamentally, Paak is a hip-hop artist with jazz influences, rather than vice versa. He writes as the ideas come into his head, allowing one line to inspire the next. This is confirmed in a short interview clip.
Anderson .Paak himself both wrote and produced The Bird, using many different compositional and production techniques. His jamming had a huge influence on the song, which can be heard in its loose, improvised nature. Let's explore each instrument and its contribution to the song, along with production and technology used.
The guitar features on 2 tracks, with the first being a pleasant 3-note riff that works over all the chords and passes seamlessly between the guitar and piano. A wet reverb with a large room size is applied to the clean staccato note that overall creates a very light feeling, almost like a bird. The second track is a strummed chord progression starting on chorus 2. This is a slightly more distorted sound, and the addition of these chords helps solidify the progression, contributing towards song development.
The lead guitar of the first track sits higher in the mix than the strumming, which helps define this main ornamental idea, with irresistible string bend introducing the entry of the lead vocals. A high-pass filter on this track makes for good space in the overall mix, so there's no overcrowding with the other tracks. The strumming frequencies are set even lower in the mix than the bass, drums, and vocals, further helping it fill the chordal space in the background. A quarter-note delay on the first track contributes to the loose, soulful feel of the song, and furthermore, the carefully varied panning helps create a warm, rich sound.
The piano develops the guitar riff further and really creates a sense of progression, and the trumpet also mimics in the same way. This call and response compositional style that we hear is then followed by fully independent solos from both the piano and trumpet, with ornamentation like appoggiaturas that add more colour and complement the soul feel of the song.
There is a very natural sound coming from the piano, even though it's recorded on MIDI. A sound that Paak achieves through careful adjustment of decay, release, compression, and EQ, and the varying levels of panning help fill up the space.
The mimicking of the vocals by the trumpet, a bird with a word came to me, also features those extra notes that adds further warmth, which are complemented by the rising and swelling of the backing vocals. These lovely riffs that are played in a very jazz-like style blend into the rest of the song far from provocatively, which Paak achieved through production techniques such as compression and dry reverb that softened up the timbre.
We've assumed the drums were recorded live, as their dry acoustic quality doesn't align with MIDI, as hinted in an interview. The simple kick, snare, and hi-hat relaxed beat fades in at the start, with lots of space given, and a subtle crash further fills in the mid to high frequencies, helping to create climaxes such as here.
I learned my lessons from the ancient roots. I choose the
Uncomplicated drum fills also help emphasize climactic points.
Expectation is created for the listener towards the end of the stanzas, where short periods of silence nicely lead into subsequent sections. The hi-hats are dynamically varied. This adds to the short-term flow and progression that's already given by the chords in the song.
Moving on, The bass and drums being perfectly out of phase creates a real tripping, accelerating feeling, which goes along with the lost feel of the chord progressions, but also somehow might contrast with the laid-back nature of the song. We've assumed the bass is not recorded live, as the beat falls too perfectly on the front of the beat every time, leading to the conclusion it is done with MIDI and quantization. Fast attack and slow release means the bass has a warm sound, which complements the laid-back feel of the rest of the song. Melodic ideas explored with an arpeggiated bass line create interest in the lower frequencies and produce interesting inversions, and a nice break in chorus 3. Where no bass is heard, it leaves space for the higher frequencies to take over and an expectation for the end of the song.
The lead vocals form the core of the song, with a raspy timbre that creates a warm atmosphere throughout. Sampling techniques are used sparingly but with much effect, such as at the end of the phrase,
Papa was a goner.
This delay is rhythmic and is also heard in
For the longest cycle, my uncles had to pay the cost.
and serves as a sound of the beat at other parts of the song. While the swelling, lush backing vocals are dominated largely by oohs and ahs, interjecting phrases emphasize some of the lead vocals lines in a call and response style similar to that of the guitar. A smooth velocity automation enhances the backing vocal swelling considerably. Both the lead and the backing vocals comprise sweet ideas and feel almost innocent, which contrasts with some of the darker themes in the song lyrics. And much repetition is heard in these melodies, such as "couldn't fake it if I wanted to," and "we sing the same song," even when the chords venture from the starting line. The softness of Paak's voice is further enhanced by a careful compression process that maintains the same dynamic level throughout, allowing for a very smooth listen.
The reason why we like this song so much is the rich musicality used, careful production techniques, meaningful lyrics, and just the amazing journey Paak takes us from starting that simple drum beat loop at the beginning. And we hope you liked it too.